I brought my little friend with me. Real great to be here. I want to thank Bioneers again for their belief in our mission and our vision, and for all of you that are doing this kind of work around the world and certainly around this area. It's a real honor to be here with you all. I am a shit disturber. I'm going to not give you the normal architect presentation. I will show some buildings, but buildings are really not my focus. It's what I do, but it's not really what I do, if you know what I mean. Now, as Kenny mentioned, it's out now almost 20 years ago. It's hard to believe, but the gray hairs are showing. I started writing the Living Building Challenge, and the idea was that we needed to fundamentally change architecture, that we needed to reimagine the impact that our built environment was having on the world. And it was a bit crazy in people's minds, and I was told that this will never happen or be a long time, and I'm glad that has been proven wrong. It was so far out there when we launched it. It was illegal, in fact, in just about every jurisdiction in North America, so we had to get to work on that. And it's amazing to think that doing things in support of life would be the thing that was illegal rather than the way we do things. So I'm a bit fond of flowers. I'm a bit fond of trees. And architects have a lot of catching up to do to be as elegant as a flower and as elegant as a tree. So this is the metaphor that Kenny mentioned, that we need to design our built environment in the same way that nature devises its architecture, running off of the sun rather than fossil fuels, using the water that we can capture and not polluting our environment. But you've heard this before. The important thing, of course, is that we solve these issues in an interconnected fashion. They aren't isolated issues. They are things that have to be solved together. And that holistic framing, if you will, is fundamental to the Living Building Challenge. And what we're trying to imagine, of course, is a world that actually is living, that will be worth living for. We ask the question, what does good look like? We understand what bad looks like, but what does good look like? And really, our philosophy in many ways aligns with ideas of others that have gone before us, like the great Buckminster Fuller. And of course, Bucky believed that you just need to show people a new model. You need to show them a better way. And I've always believed that you don't use guilt and shame to create change, but in fact, you use beauty and inspiration and elegance. And when you do that, you begin to open up people's hearts. And I still believe that, although I have come more recently to think that it's not complete as a story, and that's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today. So over the last nearly 20 years, the International Living Future Institute and many other great organizations, of course, have been putting forward tools and programs for the design industry, construction industry. These are programs that I helped create: the Living Building Challenge that was mentioned, Living Community Challenge about community, JUST, which is the first social justice label in the world, Declare, the first nutrition label for materials transparency, the first zero carbon certification, etc. And these have all done a lot of good. They've all created change. In fact, some of the change has been quite significant. This red list that I put out when we launched the first version of the Living Building Challenge has had a huge impact. And you can now find red list-free materials all throughout the building industry, where when I started my career, you couldn't. And this has been a big change, which is very positive. And of course, we've built living buildings now. People that thought we couldn't do this, we didn't need fossil fuels, they were wrong. You may know the Omega Center in upstate New York. The Bullitt Center with Dennis Hayes in Seattle, incredible projects, and so many more. This is the Chesapeake Bay Living Building. If you want to go to Georgia, you can now go and see a living building on Georgia Tech's campus, the Candida building there, which is absolutely fantastic, and so on. And so we've been building more and more of these, and there's more projects all the time, and every year it keeps going up, and it's going up, and it's going up. And even my practice alone, we have tons of projects that are pursuing net zero energy and net zero water and living building status, doing it all. And if you want to go nearby, you can find LBC projects in California. This is just one that I picked out of the database that's quite exciting because you can also drink wine, which is a good thing. So a lot has happened since I launched the challenge. I remember not only was it illegal, we had to change water laws in particular, and you couldn't find the materials, but of course renewable energy at the time was more expensive, and now that's changed, right? The cheapest form of new energy is renewable energy, and that's incredible. It's amazing to think that when we launched the challenge, we didn't have smartphones. we didn't have Teslas. So we had more first version electric cars. And so this idea that we can now electrify everything is much more real, and people are doing it. And they're doing it all over the world, which is exciting. Again, which is good. It's progress, and we can imagine that we have all the tools now that we need to have a fundamentally different world. But is it enough? And I'm going to go back to Bucky. And Bucky actually understood this, I believe, in reading his writings and understanding his message. But I think that we often forget it, that the world is not run, in fact, by logic. Maybe at times, but certainly not alone. And what many of us are coming to understand, and I really appreciated Nina's talk a few minutes ago because it resonated with me, the science that is not enough. Those of us that have been doing this, I've been presenting facts, we have been presenting information, we've been showing people the results, we've been building living buildings, saying, look at this, and people love them, and they're better, but we're still mostly building buildings that destroy the planet. And despite all the information, despite the unrefutable science of climate change, people still aren't waking up, right? And we can now see the effects. This isn't something far off into the future. This is the now. Literally, our communities are burning up. How many people here were affected by fires in the last few years? So this is not, right? This is not some sort of thing far off in the future. This is something that we're living with. And I bet everyone here has a bit of anxiety for the upcoming summer because we don't know what it's going to be like. And this is the challenge that we have, that the science is not enough, the models are not enough. They're important because without them, you don't have any context, you don't have structure if you're talking about architecture to build around. So you do need that. Bucky was right. But you have to have this within the context of a very different mental model about your role in society and society's role on the planet. And the stories that we tell ourselves are so powerful. In fact, they often transcend reality. People literally in front of their faces don't accept the truth that's in front of them because of a mental model or an ingrained belief set. You guys understand what I'm saying? And we see that this is, in fact, very deliberate at times. We see that people go out of their way to confuse and mislead, and then it becomes hard for people. And so they put their heads back in the sand and pretend that it isn't happening. And most of our society is not willing to face the hard truths. Al Gore's movie came out the same year I was writing the LBC. Might have been an inconvenient truth now. It's a lot more than that now. And you're seeing this, and Nina mentioned this, that there is literally this battle that's going on to exert more control over the stories and more control over people. And it's really discouraging. And it can be very tough for those of us that are trying to make positive change when we're fighting against the fact that even the facts are not enough, right? And it can lead to kind of a sense of grief, of societal grief, personal grief, because it feels at times hopeless, even though we have now the technologies and the examples and the models. There's none of that stuff that's really standing in our way, and that is good news. But what is fundamental, and this is the work that we all have to do And this is the work that we're trying to do in our practice more and more, which is a tough thing for architects to admit, that it's not about the buildings. Is we actually have to focus on love. You imagine going into design meetings with developers and say, let's talk about love. Some audiences have a bit of a hard time with that. They have a hard time if I bring a flower into the meeting room too. But my belief is that only through the sustained awakening of the human heart are we going to have a future. Which means what probably everyone in Bioneers understands already, that only love can save us. Wow, that's a tough thing to put forward for a lot of audiences, but it's true. In the design world, and when you're talking about regeneration of a place, you have choices that you make in what you do and how you design. So there's this point of action. And every design intervention, there's a decision whether you're going to participate in a feedback loop that is regenerative or degenerative. There's a decision, it's conscious, but it only works if your frame of mind is thinking this way. And this is the regeneration and degradation decision point. But more than that, bigger than that now, is the idea that there is this need for love and reconciliation. And that same line, that the same decision point, is the decision point between fear and love, and feedback loops that are either bringing us together as a people and as life on this planet, or moving us apart. And we have become so good in the media, and certain politicians are so good at creating a divide of making people feel that it's us versus them, that there is the other. And we are very tribal creatures at the heart of it, right? There's a part of us that is used to being suspicious of the other tribe, the other people, the other species, the other places. And it's the tension, that point of interaction between love and fear, that is essential. And this fear is often very powerful, especially, it seems, in American society, when what's so different that people imagine begins to divide us. And when you can imagine that others are different, whoever the others are, you can begin in your mind to justify all sorts of injustices, right? You can rationalize, or at least ignore, it's not me. It's not me. It's not my group. It's not my family. And after decades and decades of this in any culture, in any country, it builds into this insidious form of institutional challenges and institutional racism, institutional harm that is done that most people don't even see. And these same forces are there with institutional environmental degradation. And so this is what we have to overcome. And as you go from thinking about people and other species, you understand that it's the same root issues. The same root issues, the same fear, the same lack of love allows us to justify our cruelty not only to each other, but to all of life. And that's why, in my mind, it's clear, and I understand, of course, it's clear to the people in Bioneers, that environmentalism and social justice are truly two sides of the same coin. There is no way that we're going to build ourselves out of this crisis with living buildings. The only way we're going to do it is if we focus on love and understanding that we need to change our paradigm. Yes, we need our models, but we have to change the way we think. And probably like a lot of you, I was hoping that the pandemic would shake things up enough societally, right? In 2020, my old mentor, Bob Berkebile, used to call the year of perfect vision. And he told me this in the 90s, like, Jason, I have a feeling that 2020 is going to be an incredible, momentous year. And he was kind of right. And certainly we saw a renewed focus on race in this country. We saw a renewed focus on public health, but it didn't go far enough. We just stopped again. And so I've been doing a lot of soul searching about where our work has had the most impact and where has it had less impact. And I keep coming back to the projects where focus on reconciliation of some form is part of the discussion around regeneration. And this, for example, is a project in New Zealand, which is a new tribal parliament for the Tuhoi, and it was part of an active process of reparations and reconciliation, not only to heal that community and their culture and their people, but also the land of which they view themselves as inseparable from. And that was power in my mind. And you can see that this is a building that's run entirely off of renewable energy. No fossil fuels is run. The water comes from the sky as well. The people built the building. And it was part of this active process of healing. And so for me, if we want to regenerate life on the planet, we have to use and think about how we need to reconcile with each other and with the planet in much more deeply and profound ways than we have. And that reconciliation, in fact, if we're looking for the how, reconciliation, in my mind, is the pathway to regeneration. Without it, we won't get there. How can we begin to heal the planet if we can't even heal the divide between ourselves? We have to be able to have uncomfortable conversations. We have to be able to accept that we have had an impact on other people. We have to ask for forgiveness. We have to make amends. We have to stop the damage. We have to work together to heal and design systems together. You cannot heal an ecosystem without healing yourself. And the beautiful thing, though, is if you begin to heal an ecosystem, you will heal yourself. Because it is an opening up of your heart. And that's this amazing thing, is when you start this journey of opening your heart to love and asking for forgiveness and making amends and working together, it is a powerful path in my mind to both, again, reconciliation and regeneration. And you can begin it anywhere. All of us here have a journey, some more deeply than others, perhaps. So when we think about regeneration, and Janine, many of you know Janine, I love this quote from her: life creates the conditions conducive for life. And the world wants to heal. It wants to regenerate. Life is the only thing in the universe that we know that resists entropy. It wants to come back. And I think, and what I would add to Janine's quote is, love creates the conditions for love. And so where you begin, that's up to you. There's so many places, peoples, cultures that we need to reconcile with as a society. We need to obviously reconcile within ourselves. And there's so much regenerative work that needs to be done. And these are like interlooping spirals of work, I think. And one without the other doesn't work. Now, just to begin to wrap this up, a few more thoughts to share. I think on our good days we understand this, that there's no limit to the amount of love that we can share. I believe that. And I hope that that can extend to all of life. When we begin to see the world as one interconnected system, of which we are just one critical part, and when all people and all life are deemed valuable, then we will make it. And only then will we have a future. And we can either decide to take that point of inflection that I showed earlier and move towards love, regeneration, and reconciliation, or move towards degradation, divisiveness, and essentially consume ourselves out of a planet. I think I know the secret to life. It's to be in right relationship to all living things. And to be personally reconciled with our role of life on the planet. And so we need to let go of our old ways of thinking and become a new kind of human. Maybe Homo regenesis. And if you're homogenesis, you do recognize that you're just one part in an interconnected system of all life on the planet, and that we're all beautiful and we all have a role to play in healing and making sure that there's conditions for life to thrive, using love as the conditions for life to thrive. Now, we still have this incredibly beautiful planet despite all the challenges. This planet is worth saving. I'm going to keep doing what I do because I don't know what the hell else to do. Life is just waiting for us to invite it back. Life hasn't given up on humans. I don't think so. But to do that, we have to be reconciled with it. It's kind of like, it feels at times like that starfish story, right? You guys know the starfish story of this young child is throwing starfish back in the water, and someone says, well, what good is that? It doesn't matter. Look at all the starfish on the beach. And she says, it matters to this one. Matters to this one. So I don't know how many people we have to touch. I don't know how much is enough. I guess we'll find that out. And all I know is that I'm doing the work that I do and doing the best I can, and I hope that you are as well. Now, I live in a living building home, big surprise. So I have composting toilets, I make soil, I'm off the water grid, 100% rainwater fed home, powered by the sun, no redless chemicals, rammed earth, and FSC wood. It's pretty cool. We have chickens, we have dogs, we have craziness at my house. This is my front door, and I'm going to leave you with this now. It's kind of cool, I think. This door I actually found in a junkyard. Someone had thrown it away. So this was a beautiful hand-carved door that was hand-carved in Afghanistan, brought over to the United States for some purpose, and then thrown away. And I found it in the salvage yard. I said, oh my God, look at that. Someone threw that away. So I took it, and I was too tall for the door, so I had to lift it up. And I built this plinth under it. And for me, I did this because every time that my kids come home and their friends come over to visit, I want them to be first confronted with this message. So every child in my neighborhood has read this sign hundreds of times now. I don't know if it'll work, but it's like the starfish. All that can save us is a sustained awakening of the human heart. And with that, I hope you have a heck of a Bioneers. Thank you.